Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. Today we are joined by Tammie Jones. Tammie is the secret specialist behind the successes of many Pinterest marketing campaigns by some of the biggest agencies out there. Married mother of 6, Tammie runs the Pin Guild, where she specializes in Pinterest management, everything from setup to monthly maintenance and ads. When major agencies have Pinterest needs and want guaranteed results, Tammie gives them strategies for their clients to implement or does it for their clients as a white-labeled service. She also teaches how to utilize the platform to gain massive traffic and sales via workshops and webinars or a one-on-one basis. Basically, Tammie knows and does all things Pinterest marketing related. So I've asked her to join us here today so we can all understand the potential of this amazing social media channel. So Tammie, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's an honor, a pleasure. We always get so chatty before the calls and after the calls, so I just love your personality. We get along so well. But before we hop into the stuff about Pinterest, I want to get some background. Like, how did you even get into marketing? Like, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs and marketers, or like, what got you started?
I do not come from a family of entrepreneurs. What got me started initially was I was in corporate, thought I wanted the corporate life, and just really it wasn't serving me or my life, and always felt like there was more, as most entrepreneurs do. You know, you don't fit in the mold exactly the way you're supposed to, and you ask questions, too many questions most of the time. Kind of gets you in trouble a little bit because you're like, why? But why? Okay. But I worked for several companies. I do have a degree in business management. I have a degree in design as well. So I have several things in my background. Those were what I wanted to do in corporate. So I just kind of translated those out of corporate and into my own life. And Pinterest just happened to be something I've always loved from the time it started. So when I started noticing, hey, people are advertising on here now, you know, so how can I make this work for me? So I set off to figure it out and found some courses and started learning everything I could possibly learn, and that has led me to where we are today.
So you had a job in corporate before. What were you doing in the corporate world?
I was a manager at Walmart. I was a department manager, so I ran the cell phones. From there, I went into Verizon and did sales and marketing with them. Mm-hmm. I then moved into their division of doing like inventory and things like that and the merchandising, so setting up everything for their marketing, for sales, things like that, keeping track of inventories. My degree for design is actually in architecture, so I have designed homes and done projects and things like that.
That's really cool.
So I have a little bit of a varied background, but then it all comes together.
Mm-hmm. And how did you tiptoe into then becoming, I mean, just before the call, you were saying, like, when I asked how you're doing, you're like, oh, I'm good, just tired because you're growing so fast. You're onboarding staff and people and you're developing systems. How did you tiptoe from being in the corporate world into now running your own agency?
There was no tiptoe. I don't do anything halfway. When I decide I'm going to do something, I do it and look out. That's just how it is.
Got it.
When we decided I was done in corporate, I quit. End of story. Started researching and started taking on clients within just a couple months.
Wow. Okay.
And that was a year and a half ago now.
So how did you start getting some of your first clients? Did you just like how did you even know how to reach them? How did you know, you know, like how did you get them, I guess?
where to find them?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Initially, I took a course through a pretty popular course actually, that they taught how to do Pinterest VA work. And in that course, if you stayed in their membership, they actually could refer people to you. So they had a group, and they would go in there and they would post, well, there's somebody looking. Now, these are very, very low paying because obviously you're entry level,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets you experience. So from there, you start going into Facebook groups, go on Upwork, go on Fiverr, different places like that. And you can actually find people looking for Pinterest marketing, but a lot of times they're looking for social media, which Pinterest is not. It's called social media, but it is not. And
Right.
then you just contact them. So a lot of cold calling, a lot of getting in. I did a lot of Etsy shops to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get on Etsy and look for shops that I thought that I would be a good fit for, and I would basically cold message them, hey, this is what I do. Are you looking for someone to help you?
Got it. Got it. Okay. So that's because I know some of the people listening to this, they're in that certain scenario. So I think it's really helpful to know that you just have to do the outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is what I do. You know, are you looking for someone to help you with that, or would you be interested? I think that's a
Absolutely.
fantastic method. So now let's talk a little bit. So okay, so now you've got your first clients, and then now you've been growing. So what were some of the challenges you faced in from getting your first clients, like you said, at entry level, to getting to where now you're kind of like the secret specialist being snuck in the back door for some of these big agencies to handle their Pinterest stuff? You know, how is that?
Well, a lot of it is mindset. A lot of that is just mindset and getting past the preconceptions that we have of money, and that we're allowed to charge so much money for different things. And for some of us, after you've done something for so long, or if you're just naturally good at it, you just don't understand how difficult it can be for somebody else. So then you get stuck in that, well, I can't charge that much for this. I can't do, you get stuck there. So I would say the biggest challenge for me was overcoming those mindset blocks that I had for myself, and also getting rid of the clients that weren't serving me. I was serving them, but they weren't serving me. It was, can you do this? Can we do this? And you're only getting paid $100, $200 to manage their accounts. Well, you're spending hours and hours and hours doing this. Your time's worth more than that. So getting to where you're at a point where you can say, okay, this is no longer serving me, and letting go of those to allow the bigger opportunities to come in.
I love that you mentioned that, because I don't know who said this, but it's, when your hands are full, they can't receive. If your hands are full,
exactly.
It's like nature pours a vacuum. It doesn't like that. It tries to fill everything. So it's like if you make space, something will fill it. But if your hands are full, you can't. You've got no space to receive anything new. It can be scary, especially for a lot of people that are new to business, because it's like, where's my next paycheck? Like, where's my next meal coming from, right? But I love that. So the mindset. So how did you address that? The mindset around that? Because I know exactly in my career, maybe more than that.
Read lots and lots of books, followed a lot of things.
Okay. Just reading books on that.
Yeah, reading books, Psycho-Cybernetics.
I love that. That's a great
Catherine
book.
Zenkina. It is an awesome book. And Catherine Zenkina, followed her for a little bit, read some of her stuff. Marie Forleo is one of them that I had listened to quite a bit. And then also coaches, just taking their advice and doing those daily things. I have like 6 books sitting here waiting to be read. Millionaire Success Habits is one of them. I mean,
Yep.
I have a lot on audiobooks too, but a lot of it is just retraining and kicking out those negative thoughts as soon as they come in, and having a good support system.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. Now, my husband is my biggest supporter, and on days when, as entrepreneurs, we have ups and downs, sometimes daily and hourly. He's always there going, now, you got this. I know you have this. he really is my biggest cheerleader. So having
awesome.
that type of support is an amazing help.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I think mindset is such an important thing that people don't really appreciate it. I'm pretty adamant about trying to make sure that we have a morning routine just to set ourselves up for the day right. So that way, no matter what comes, because I remember I had a client once and it felt like a really toxic, it was just high stress. I don't want to say toxic, but it was just high stress, negative experience. And I found that if I rolled out of bed because of the time zone difference and hopped on that call, that set the tone for the rest of my day versus me being in control of my day. So when you talk about mindset, I think that's a really important one. And maybe some people are impervious to that. They can get up and deal with stuff and it doesn't, rolls off their shoulder. That's fine. But knowing yourself, I guess, and then setting yourself up and really making sure that if you have to start your workday at 10 a.m. just so you can have some time to prep yourself and to do that and get yourself ready, then maybe do that. I think that's really important. And I also, at the price thing, think it's important to talk to people about, like, when you talk about charging what you're really worth in that, taking the focus off you, instead focusing on the client and how much they're missing out or how much it's costing them to help determine the actual value of what you're providing. I think that's really important too.
Yeah. One of the best questions is, what would this do for you? What could this potentially do for your bottom line? What is this worth to you?
Yes.
Because if I'm charging X amount of dollars and I can show you to where we can get you 10 times that or more, then it would be worth it.
Yep. I also like using, how much money would you be making this month if we already had this set up? And then saying, okay, so you're actually losing. Oh, you'd be making an extra $50,000. Okay, so you just lost $50,000 because you haven't spent X to get this done. Do you want to lose another $50,000 and be $100,000 in the hole? Or do you want to start picking,
exactly.
Yeah. And it's a real thing. It's not a manipulative thing at all because it's a lot of people.
No, it's true.
Yeah, we're dilatory. We procrastinate. We, fear of change, all that sort of stuff. And there's a ton of people that need improvements in their health, like in other areas other than just marketing and their business and that, that they just
absolutely.
They don't, it's on the list, but it's just, it's important, but it's not urgent, until it becomes urgent. And and that's where
we were having that conversation earlier about that with someone.
Yeah. So now you said that Pinterest isn't social media. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Pinterest is actually a search engine. So there is no social aspect really to Pinterest. You don't get on there and you don't have to have X amount of followers to do anything. As long as you set your account up right and use good SEO and keywords, people will find you whether they know who you are or not. And Pinterest doesn't care if you're a big brand or a small brand. They put anything that is relevant to what that person is searching for at the time in front of them, or say Lowe's or you're a mom and pop store. They don't care. What they care about is making the user experience as relevant as possible and putting things in front of the person that they're searching for that have to do with it. So that is where your SEO comes in. That's where you need to make sure that you are wording your pins properly, and also good graphics. Because if you're sitting there and you search for something, but you're scrolling, you need to have a good graphic that someone's going to say, hey, that looks like what I'm looking for, and stop. Because otherwise they're just going to keep scrolling. But that's not social. That's not social media. That's not, we're getting on there to see what our family's doing. We're not getting on there to see what Susie down the road is doing or what they had.
Or to chat.
We're getting on there for a reason. We're getting on there to look for something. We're looking for either
to
solve a problem. Oh, no, I was just saying, they're looking for a way to solve a problem. They're on there to search for something specific. They're not just on there to scroll mindlessly.
Right. So now, can you talk a little bit about the stereotypes of Pinterest? Are there some myths about the stereotypes of Pinterest that maybe were true in the past but aren't true anymore, and what are they?
Oh, my goodness, it changes so often. It is like every other platform in that aspect. Everything changes. The pin sizes change regularly as to what Pinterest prefers. So at one time it was 600 by 900, then it went to 735 by 1105. Now it's up to 1,000 by 1,500. That was one of the things that changes. Some of the misconceptions, I guess I would call it, is that you have to have high impressions and high followings to actually be doing well and be getting clicks to your website. Those are nice metrics, but they're more vanity metrics, because I worked on accounts that had 400 to 1 million impressions a month, but only had like 4 or 5 clicks to their actual website. So the people that were coming there or seeing the stuff, they weren't actually interacting with their content or clicking to their website.
Mm-hmm.
But then other accounts can have 50,000 to 100,000, and they're getting hundreds, if not thousands, of clicks to their website. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. Because as we know on social media, the higher your follower count, the more likes you have, the more interaction you have. That doesn't translate for Pinterest. So those two would be the big things.
That's awesome. Now, what about the demographics of the site? Like, what about, like, is Pinterest only for certain industries?
No. It is there are only 2 industries that I have found, and one of them is changing as we speak, that I could not do anything with on Pinterest. That is trucking. Very, very hard to do anything with trucking. And then, because we also own a trucking company, so I know I can't use it for that. I tried. There was no way to, at this point, to get that. The other one was I worked with a men's swimwear and clothing company. And at the time, it's very, very hard to translate that into sales because there weren't enough men on there. And if the women were saving the items for, say, their boyfriend or their husband or whatever, they were more ideas. They weren't necessarily purchasing them. So those were the 2 that I have seen that I have had trouble with. Other than that, there's a way and a strategy that can be done for almost any other industry. I will say for local, it is a little harder because people get on there to plan ahead, so they're planning for, vacations and things like that. But it's a little harder to get that foot traffic off of Pinterest. It's more of an online-based type thing.
Got it. Now let's talk about some of the fundamental strategies. So what are some of the core strategies for how to use Pinterest? Yeah, you talked about that. In the beginning you said like it's more of a search engine than it is social media because there's no chatting, there's no real engagement, it's not like that. It's more about keywords and quality graphics. But you also talk about how there's different strategies. So it's not just have a pretty photo, use a couple hashtags, and you'll have success. So what are some of the fundamental strategies for Pinterest? Can you kind of share a couple of those?
Oh, absolutely. The biggest one is consistency. You need to be consistent no matter what it is you're doing. The algorithm rewards those who are consistently pinning every single day, whether that is a few pins or 100. And you don't even need to pin 100 to start with, but consistency. So you can't get on there and at the beginning of the week pin 70 pins and then not touch the platform the rest of the week. It's going to knock you down in the algorithm. You're not going to show up as much as someone who pins every single day, puts out fresh new content all the time, and is actively using the platform. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be on there as a scheduler that you can use, but you do need to have posting every single day. So that would be the top thing that so many people, even other Pinterest managers that I see do, and that's part of why some of their accounts don't grow, is they don't listen to the consistency rule. And they suffer for it, and their clients suffer for it. The other thing is your strategy is really going to be based on what your client's goal is. Not everybody gets on there to get sales. Sometimes you're building an email list. Sometimes you're just building brand awareness. Sometimes you are doing sales. So depending on what the goal is for that particular client, you need to build a strategy around and look at trends. So whatever's trending at the time, if it's within their market, and keep up with all of those. There are certain times that are better for certain businesses on Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
One of the time that is not a good time for doing any type of advertisement, like if you're going to do a paid ad, is when it's a short term, say you have a giveaway or a sale or something like that. Because people don't necessarily react immediately. They might save it for later. So then when they go back, that sale is no longer on. So then there's just certain times and things that work better.
So you're saying
if
don't do like
short-term,
don't do a 72-hour flash sale. Instead, do like kind of evergreen things, like evergreen offers.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you
or a longer term offer?
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So evergreen or longer.
So like, we're running this for a month, and then you turn it off. But don't do something that you're only running for a couple days, and it's just not going to work.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. So some of the fundamentals, it sounds like, are consistency, beginning with the end in mind, giving adequate time for things. So like we said, like probably never less than a week, always more than a week. Sounds like you prefer 30 days. So enough time to really get traction on there. What are some of the other...
You can't really get a good idea of how things are performing in less than 30 days. Because it takes a while for a pin to really start going and get out there. And the more people that share it, the more people that see it, the more that it gains traction. It's a longer game than what some of the social media.
Got it. Okay. So consistency, beginning with the end in mind. How would you treat someone trying to build an email list versus someone trying to get sales differently?
To get the sales, we're going to drive to whatever the products are. And with the email list building, we're going to have several lead-ins that allow that to happen. So we would maybe have 3 or 4 landing pages with different opt-ins that would interest the person depending on what market they're in. So if you have a coach, say, like a health coach, for instance, there are spreadsheets, there are meal trackers, there are little ebooks, there are different things that you can offer for free.
Right.
They just go to your page and sign up for your email list. This then allows you to obviously market to them later on. They've already gotten some of your content, so you're starting to build that trust, familiar with you. They've obviously saved it in order to get that email and to get signed up. But for someone who has products, per se, we would like to it just so we can put more fresh content out there. But you're going to, more often than not, lead directly to a product. So you're not going to have that buildup of them getting to know you. So the strategy behind that is to get as many different pictures of the product, maybe some of the benefits of the product, maybe some of the ingredient benefits, if it's like a healthcare or a beauty product or something along those lines. Anything that is going to lead to that, but needs to be fresh content. So you're going to make 6 to 10 pins of every single thing so that you're not constantly just repinning that same thing over and over and over, because then Pinterest is going to say, well, they have no new content, so we don't care about them.
Right. So now help me understand this, though. Does it matter? Like, I remember when I was launching a book years back, I was pushing it, promoting on Amazon. I got my book to hit #1 on Amazon. And one of the tools, not the only tool, but one of the tools that I used were hashtags on Twitter. And at the time, I actually maxed out my daily tweets for the day because I was just kind of just going after every different hashtag that I thought was relevant for my audience and would get people to check out my Amazon page. Amazon doesn't give you any stats, so it's just like, sales and date. That's really it. That's all you get. So I didn't know what was working. I had to light my hair on fire. But for me, that was an instance where for my followers, their newsfeed might have been just full of junk. I might have lost a lot of followers. I didn't have a ton at the time. But because I was just it was very similar each post. The only thing that was changing was the hashtags because I was trying to get it in front of different audiences. But you wouldn't do
Hmm.
that, like you typically wouldn't do that for targeting your followers. I guess my question is, when you talk about for sales, you want to use as many different pics of the product, the benefits of the product, or ingredients in the product. Do you like? I guess I'm wondering, do you have followers on Pinterest too, though, right? So would you like gum up your feed or their feed with all your stuff, or are you trying to use different, are you trying to do that same approach? You're going to pump out all these pins on a regular basis, but you're targeting different hashtags or keywords or whatever on Pinterest to try to get, into those feeds, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not really worried about your own wall. You're more concerned, like, take
Hmm.
Instagram. Like, I could do 50 posts over a couple of weeks of my product, and I could, my Instagram wall would look like garbage, kind of, maybe, because it's just the same image or
Hmm.
whatever, but I'd be trying to get
Hmm.
it in front of different. I keep using hashtags, but I'm just trying to understand that strategy of that a little bit. Like, is that
Okay.
how do you avoid that, having just a big block of like blah, like 50 photos of the same thing, even if it's like different colored backgrounds? Is that what
You
yeah.
you schedule it out. So there's ways to make it to where there's 3 to 5 days or even more in between that same pin going out to the different boards
Mm,
that it's relevant for.
mm-hmm.
You have group boards that you're a part of. You have Tailwind tribes that you're a part of. And all of these are different ways to get that same pin out and every other image of it. You absolutely do not want to spam Pinterest because they will lock you down. They do not like the same thing over and over, so you need to put some time in between.
Right.
And that's part of that is why you use different images. The other part of Pinterest, you do need to share other content that is relevant for anyone
Mm,
who would land on your page. So you don't just do your own content. You actually go in and you find similar content, but not competing content to actually share that gives your followers, that gives people who land on your more value.
yep.
So I would go in, and if it's a health coach, I might follow some recipe bloggers that fall in
Mm,
the same line of what they teach nutrition-wise. I might follow some exercise people who, have stuff like that. So these are things that my people are going to be interested in, but they're not competing with me.
right.
And
Like
same thing with
strategic
products.
alliances, it sounds like.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So you're
Because then you're not only pinning the same thing over and over and over, and your feed doesn't look like only your content. So
mm,
if someone does land on your page, they have a variety of things to look at. They have a variety of things to choose from,
yep, yep, yep.
which still, again, builds that trust because you're giving them more information about things that they would obviously be interested in. So
Hmm.
for a natural beauty products, you want to find people who are in essential oils. You want to find people who talk about holistic practices.
Hmm.
You want to talk about people who are into growing their food and versus buying their foods. So you just look at things that are going to be beneficial and help build the following,
Hmm.
because then they're also on there doing the exact same thing. They need people to them, but will offer value and
Hmm.
get more people to them.
It almost sounds like a
And
digital
and you're
version of like a chamber of commerce of sorts. Like,
oh, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
like where
Yep.
you partner people and you align with them and you
Mhm.
refer business back and forth, and maybe there's some events where you're all promoting heavier than usual, and for other things. It's kind of what it sounds like you strategically align with people, you try, and even with your
Mhm.
competitors. Like, if someone's a direct competitor, then you try to make sure you know how you differentiate. That happens in natural ecosystems. You might
Exactly.
have, like in our park outside, there's lots of birds, and some birds eat plant material like berries and nuts and stuff from the trees. Other birds eat insects. Some birds eat the fish in the pond. Some birds eat other birds. But they're all birds. But they found like a small niche in being a bird. And so it sounds like that. Like, you want to have complementary but similar but not so much competing. So it might even be like you're a health coach and they're a health coach, but you're a health coach and you deal with diabetes and they're a health coach and they deal with, I don't know, autism or, battling aging
Yeah,
or something like that. And so now you're
yeah.
similar, but you're not competing. And I think it's a fantastic way to look at it. So now, do you need to pin more than once a day? Is daily just a good standard to go? Are you want to pin 8 times a day? Like you talked about group boarding, tailwind tribes, having your own board.
hmm
So I'm Pinterest is I actually had Pinterest running. My social media manager was running this a couple of years ago now. We haven't done anything with it, but it's very foreign to me. So how can you explain the landscape a little bit? Like I have my own board. I get that part. What's with the group boards
uh
and the tailwind tribes? Like what are these and how do you use them?
Okay, group boards and tailwind tribes are basically exactly the same thing. It is a collective of business owners, health and beauty, whatever the different niches might be, and everyone shares everyone else's content. So they're limited to how much you can add per day, but they also have a requirement of you sharing one or two for every one that you pin. So if I put one of my pins in a board, I have to share somebody else's. So it's kind of like a one-for-one type thing. Some of them require more, some of them don't. Tribes are the same way. If you don't follow the rules and you don't pin and you don't share, you get kicked out. So that kind of keeps things fair. But it also gives you a bigger variety and gets you in front of people that you might not necessarily get in front of, because this person is then sharing that with anyone who might see their content as well.
Right.
So it's just a bigger alliance in a kind of like a chamber. So I would say each board is more like a chamber.
Got it.
You have a large chamber, and then each board is more like a local network. So maybe we have the Texas State Chamber, but then I also have the Corpus Christi Chamber.
Right.
So on a little smaller level.
Got it.
Just to put it in those terms. And as far as pinning per day, you want to put out, if you have enough to put out, you would want to put at least, and I mean a minimum of 10 pins a day.
Wow.
And since you are having to do a mix of your stuff and others, 10 is pretty easy to hit. I mean, very, very easy to hit. Because if I'm sharing one pin into a group and one pin into a tribe, and I have a couple of those, that right there can take up 10. Right. Well, now I haven't even shared my content. So it sounds like a lot. And by utilizing a scheduler, you can do it to where the scheduler automatically knows the best time to pin per day for what people are looking for your content. So you don't even have to guess what times to do it. It does it for you. So if it tells me that 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's going to be looking for something that one of my clients has, it's going to schedule that pin to go out at that.
Got it. So you're doing this in batches, it sounds like. You might spend a week doing the research on all the stuff, but then you'll schedule the pins for the month or for a couple of months if you can.
I highly recommend not going that far out, just because trends change, pins change. A pin that performed for you 2 months ago may not perform a month from now. So you want to really keep on top of your analytics and see what's doing well as pin image sizes change. And Tailwind itself has even said, if you start scheduling out too far in advance, it kind of bogs down the system. So your own scheduler will then lag. So for my own personal preference, I don't like to go more than 3 weeks ahead.
Got it. Okay.
Because I like to see, like I said, it takes about a month to understand how well a pin is performing. And then we need to make changes to that. So if I've pinned 3 or 4 months out, I'm not really keeping on top of how everything's performing. Right. So my personal preference, others will tell you to pin well in advance. That's their thing. They can do what they feel works best for them.
Yep.
For me personally, what I have seen works best is right about that time frame.
Got it. Right. Because in 3 weeks, now you can kind of take a look at what's new, and you can stay with all the trending new topics, right? And seasonality and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And try and put viral content out, just like you do on other stuff. Because for a lot of the clients, we share quotes and things like that, because a lot of it is having to do with entrepreneurs' mindsets and things like that. or if it's holistic, there's certain quotes and things that are trending at the time. So you want to share those. So you need to be at the forefront of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So now how, like, for some of the people that are listening, they're like, okay, but, is it worth my time, so to speak? How powerful can Pinterest be? Like, I want to, because everyone talks about Facebook and Google these days. And so can you, I mean, it's hard, you can't necessarily predict or guarantee, but do you have any examples of like how worth it is it for people to actually invest in getting Pinterest up and running? I don't know if I
The
phrased that
investment?
properly. No, well, just in terms of like the like what they can get. Yeah, like what could Pinterest really do for my business? Like everybody's on Facebook, so is it really worth me getting in on Pinterest? What would you say to that, and how would you prove it?
The first thing I would say is do not put all of your eggs in one basket. If Facebook shuts down tomorrow, you've lost that entire audience. And if you're not on any other platform, how are you going to continue? So that's my first thing. You need to spread out your marketing across different platforms. To know if it's going to be worth it is if you're email building, quite a bit of the time we do a lot of email building when we're first launching a brand and getting their brand awareness out. Within just a few weeks, we can go from no email list to maybe 50 on an email list, because like I said, we're launching the brand, to hundreds and thousands of people in their email list.
That's awesome.
Within a very, very short amount of time. But it takes a lot of forework. It takes a lot of having the lead-ins that we need. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of strategy to get that. Sales-wise, depending on strategy and how quickly they want to grow, whether they want to do it organically or paid, that also varies. If you're doing all organic, it takes longer. If you do some paid ads, just like any other platform, you're obviously going to boost that awareness and you're going to boost those sales or drive more people to your email list much, much faster.
Got it. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. How does it differentiate? How are paid ads, what are the paid ad options on Pinterest right now? Like, I know on Facebook you have kind of news feed, ads show up in your messenger. There's also the sidebar if you're on desktop. Instagram, you've got stories, and you've also got paid posts that show up in your news feed. What does Pinterest offer?
Pinterest offers you show up in the search and you show up in the browse are the ways that it's shown to people. If you are running a shopping campaign, we actually upload the products catalog into Pinterest, and then that is shown in that catalog feed where you always see, see more like this, and you have all the products with the prices underneath them, so you can show up that way.
I like it.
And so for a product company, that's a really, really good thing that they've added. The other thing is you can do it by your email list that you already have, if you have one, and you can target the people who have already purchased from you, or you can do lookalike audiences just like you can on the others, which it then takes into account, well, these people at this email address act like this when they're in here and when they're online. So these are people that we think are going to like what they have to offer as well.
I like that.
You can get as specific. Yeah, that's a really, really powerful way. The other thing is the keyword research, because you put keywords in for it to know. And you need to look at where your potential client or customer is in their journey, in their purchasing journey, in their journey of trying to solve whatever the problem is, and then put the content out that's going to reach them at that point. So you not only look at the product itself, but you look at, okay, this person, let's use my my beauty company that I work with. They may be looking for products for acne. They may be looking at products for aging. They may be looking at products for dry skin. So you have to look at where a person might be searching on a platform and then target those keywords. So, face wash for acne, face wash for dry skin, how to get rid. There's a myriad of ways that you can go about it. But that all those keywords then also hit the algorithm, and it's like, okay, so somebody searching for this will like this. Okay, somebody searching for this will also like this. So there are so many different ways that you can narrow in on that targeting and have a broad audience that's going to show up to. There's also a way to do accelerated.
What's accelerated?
So you can actually, it actually accelerates the pace at which it shows the pin.
Ah, okay. Like it'll
Mm-hmm.
spend your
So
budget all at once or spread it out over a period of time.
Yeah, so if you hit accelerated and you're hitting your daily limit, if you have a daily limit, you know you need to put some more money behind that because obviously it's really gained some traction.
Mm.
So it's a way to find out quicker, what's going to work.
And they allow you to set up tracking pixels to confirm conversions and that sort of thing. So that way, if you're doing paid ads with Pinterest,
oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Wow, that's powerful.
Yep.
That's powerful, especially if you have something that's
you
visual.
have all kinds of code that you can install. You can even set up through your Google Analytics a UTM code that you can attach to each pin to track it even further. Because every time a pin is repinned, it changes its code. So sometimes it doesn't capture all of that information very well. But if you set up a UTM code, it's a little stronger tracking, so you can actually track that a little better.
I like that.
Yeah, you can get as far down into that as you would want to.
Yeah,
it can get pretty techy in the analytics of it, and there's a lot of tracking that goes into it so that you can see exactly how well it's performing.
So we talked about what Pinterest is and what it is not. We talked about how it's important, the relevancy, how wording your pins properly, graphics are important, how being consistent and daily is best. And it sounds like if at least once a day, ideally maybe 10 pins per day. It depends on what your goal is. And you also then talked about, once you know your goal, we talked into kind of the different strategies. There's different strategy for organic versus paid. And then I like that you mentioned this used to be from early days of Google search. They used to call it the Wonder Wheel. Google, whenever you search for a keyword, there was a little wheel that showed up in the bottom left sidebar of all the relevant topics, like a topic wheel. So if I put in, like you said, like skincare, maybe one is acne, one's aging, and all these are the topics that, almost like if you do hashtag research, this is your key hashtag, these are the top hashtags around it. So it sounds like that, like you not only want to create pins for your topic, but you want to get an idea for what are the surrounding themes and create content for those. And then ideally you should set up tracking. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was going to say, and Pinterest, actually searching in Pinterest for the keywords is best because it always has tiles that pop up below it that show you other things that are related to that people are searching for then.
So Pinterest really just tells you, that's almost like predictive search on Google. You put your keyword into Google,
it is, and then exactly.
And then it tells you the other top things. That's fantastic. So it's like telling you they're trying to help you be successful on their platform. Hey, these are the other things people are looking for. But then you need to track because one thing that you'll find, anybody that's done this for a while will find, is that even though you might have 100 options, you'll probably only make money on like 3 to 5. Like that's it. So what are those money keywords and what are those money topics? And once you hone those in, and it sounds like you can set up pixels for the paid, but not organic. So organic, you need to use the Google Analytics and UTM for tracking. Is that accurate?
You can actually track it even if you don't have those UTM codes. It's just better if you do, especially for paid.
Right.
One thing that Pinterest is amazing at that no other platform does is it will actually tell you what keywords are performing well. You don't have to guess. It will tell you exactly how many clicks each keyword got.
Wow.
And exactly where that showed up, whether it showed up in their search.
Yeah, Google used to do that, and then at some point they made it all a mystery unless you're using Google AdWords.
Yeah.
And that's just, they played the money game.
So then when you go to start a new campaign for a very similar product, you already know what keywords are working. And then you can take that into your organic strategy as well. Because you already know these keywords that are working. So why not use them there also?
And someone could do that with the opposite. So if someone has Google or SEO campaigns that are working and they already know their keywords, they could just do an extension into Pinterest. So this is a way for Pinterest to be an add-on to your existing keyword marketing with Google, whether it's paid with Google AdWords or it's organic with SEO, or vice versa. You can test on Pinterest first, figure out what's working, and then go the other way, because it might be, the SEO results in Google might be really competitive, and it might be 8 to 12 months to really make any movement on the SEO, the search engine results page. Meanwhile, in Pinterest, it's open game, and it sounds like every day it's a fresh battle. So even if you were dominating the last 3 months, if you're not there today, if you're not doing those 10 plus posts per day, then you're not showing up, right? You might have been king of the hill or queen of the hill for the last 6 months, but if you don't show up tomorrow, somebody else can take your spot. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you stop type of interaction with the platform, it will ultimately, decrease your views because you're not being active, so they're not going to show you as much.
This is awesome.
Just like in any other type of feed, if you're not putting something out there, then that's the other thing. Pinterest is forever. So even if you do stop being active on a platform, your pins never go away. They're always there. So someone could still get to you 2 years from now from a pin that you pinned 2 years ago, whereas in Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the more people are posting in our feeds, they're gone, basically. They're just not going to see them. So Pinterest is like evergreen.
Oh, so you don't have to worry then. You don't have to worry. If you're on Pinterest and you stop, you'll still get traffic from Pinterest?
You will, just not as much and not as often.
Right. Got it. So you still show up, but you're much further down. Like people got to scroll for a while till they get to you, because your competitors will bury you.
Yeah, you'll be further down in the feed just like you would on social media, just because you weren't active, but you're still there.
Right.
And if it's still relevant information to what they're searching for, it's still going to show. It just may not be in the top row.
So
and we're a very time constrained time and scroll through a lot of stuff. When we search for something, typically we're probably going to pick in the top 2 rows that we can see. We're not going to continue to scroll forever and ever and ever because we just don't have time for that.
Right. So it sounds like every day there's a battle or an auction for eyeballs. Every day there's like people on Pinterest using it like a search engine for various stuff. These people are probably more visual than they are like readers, right? Because they want the visual aspect to it. They like the images. And every day there's that battle for them. Every day there's a fresh battle. So depending on the trends, you could even just say that maybe there's 1,000 people every day for your business, that 1,000 potential prospects are showing up on Pinterest every day. And you get to determine whether you show up or not. And if you pin more, because the way it's structured, that not only do you have to pin your stuff, but other people's stuff, you can actually control that flow. You can control. Everyone's trying to pin and get in there and kind of outpin each other. And if you are the pinningest, I don't know if that's a real word, but I just made it. If you are the pinningest, then you get to control the whole conversation for that day with those potential prospects.
There's potential for that, yes.
Right. I love that because it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up, and it knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up and it knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. So the moral of the story is it doesn't matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. And I just feel like that's kind of what Pinterest, like every day, look, your keywords, every day, there's going to be eyeballs coming every day. There's potential leads and buyers. There's leads and buyers. There's people every day on Pinterest. And if you're not running, if you're not pinning, if you're not there, your competitors are going to be getting them instead of you. And this is something that you can probably do to test. This is something you could probably do to test keywords quickly. Sounds like in 30 days or so, you could figure out what keywords work and don't work. And then if you haven't started an SEO strategy, you could then build an SEO strategy for Google based off the results in Pinterest. Or the opposite, if you have an SEO strategy, you can now translate that to Pinterest and within 30 days see whether, how it's performing for you. That sounds incredibly powerful.
It is incredibly powerful. And it is one of the, it's up and coming, but it is one of the most
Oh, you cut out there. It's one of the most under what?
underutilized
Hmm.
as far as businesses go, because it's just now really building up. So if you get in while everything is really ramping up, you get to be on the forefront of that. As of right now, there's 275 million users on there searching. And if you're not on there, I'll guarantee they're not going to find you.
Right. Ooh, that burns. That burns.
Mm-hmm.
275 million potential customers on there, and if you're not on there, they won't find you. That's like I always say, the book you don't read can't help you. The book you don't own you can't read, and the book you don't read can't help you. That's what always gets me to read.
Exactly.
I have like scattered books all over my house. Like some people leave a book in the bathroom. I got one by the TV. I got one all over my desk where I cook.
Yep. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. In my car, so when I go to the beach, I have one there. Yeah. Yep.
Tammie, this has been incredibly informative and really exciting. Is there anything I didn't ask you about Pinterest that I should have asked you?
I would say we should have probably covered just about everything. The only thing I would say is, get it in your plans. People are so focused on different platforms that they see an immediate result. But you need to have a plan to go across multiple platforms, and you need to be on a platform that is evergreen. You need to be on one that your content gets on there and stays on there, so that years from now still have those potential eyes on your products or on your services, and getting those people back to you. And the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to reap the benefits from it.
I love that. Tammie, this has been fantastic. You are definitely in the trenches with Pinterest and know what's going on. If someone wants to reach out, if they want to talk to you about working with their agency or helping them with their strategy, what are some of the best ways to get in touch?
Through the website,
Okay.
or on Instagram and Facebook, and I will give you those links so that you can put those in the show notes.
Sure. And what's the web URL?
The web URL is www.thepinguild.com. And I will be
pinguild.com. For those of you that are driving or listening to this while you jog or something, definitely go check that out. Tammie, this is fantastic. I love our conversations. I would love to get an update from you in a few months on what's new in the wacky world of Pinterest. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. Once again, for people, if you're looking for more, if you get stuck, if you are on Pinterest and are looking for a way to enhance it, Tammie's really is the go-to expert on this, so I would check out the Pin, P-I-N, Guild, G-U-I-L-D.com. Tammie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I always enjoy speaking with you. It has been my pleasure.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.